So once again, I welcome you all to this very special 166th session of Leadership Talks. As you know that these sessions are being organized by India International Education Council and School Lalaji Solutions. India International Education Council is a not-for-profit organization which is working in the field of education. It has collaborators from 12 countries. It aims to create a better world through education, building quality centers for elementary education approachable for all kids is another goal of IAEC. Finding best educational practices across the globe and find ways to implement those in Indian institutions is another goal of IAEC. It is also creating more awareness on hygiene and learning disabilities. It publishes a magazine called World Education Review and many other educational reports. It aims to build 100 chapters in different cities by 2022. It will soon open its membership for institutions and individuals. It also impart training for leaders, teachers, students, and parents. As you all know, that so far we have conducted 165 sessions successfully. We have received 20,589 registrations, 19,276 questions on national education policy. We have received participation from 8 countries: India, USA, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Nepal, Kuwait, Russia, and Seychelles. From India, we have received participation from 23 states and 132 cities. We aim to reach out to 100,000 educators. With this, we would be reaching out to 20,000 institutions and 1,500 plus eminent like today's speakers would be joining us to share their perspective and thoughts on national education. Now, I would request you all, please join me in welcoming our key speakers for this very, very special session. Our first key speaker is Senior Education Leader, Dr. Sujata Gade, ma'am. Dr. Sujata is principal with Diamond Jubilee High School, Hyderabad. Diamond Jubilee High School, Hyderabad is managed by Aga Khan Education Services India. She's a skilled educator with 25 years of experience in teaching and school administration. She has been with Aga Khan Education Services for past 7 years and been instrumental in revising policies related to pedagogy, teacher training, child safety, inclusive education. She also completed a school auditing course by ISO 20001 and 2018 on EOMS and has been auditor helping managements to refine, reinvent, introduce and implement systems for quality education and administration. Academically, she has done a BSc, a B.Ed, MSc Maths, MSc Psychology, and PhD from Sri Venkateshwara University, Tirupati, Andhra Pradesh. She has worked with many prestigious schools like Orchid International School for PYP and IGCSE, Hyderabad, Arbor International School, Kondapur, Hyderabad, Global Indian International School as IB and IG curriculum, Uppal, Hyderabad. We welcome you, Sujata ma'am. Thank you for joining. It's an honor to have you. Our next key speaker, another very senior and eminent education leader, Trilok Singh Bester. Trilok sir is principal with Delhi Public School, Ghaziabad, Vasundhara, Delhi. He is an eminent and passionate educationist for the past 4 decades. He has worked with many prestigious institutions like Jodhamal Public School, Jammu, Unison World School, Doon International Senior Secondary School, Lakhimpur Kheri, Uttar Pradesh, Scholars Home Senior Secondary School, Rajput Road, Dehradun, among others. He is a winner of many awards for his contribution to the field of education, like CBSE Training Award, CBSE Teacher Award for in 2016 by MHRD and CBSE Chairperson. He was also awarded the Best Principal of Jammu and Kashmir and Himachal Pradesh 6 years in a row. He was also appointed the City Coordinator for a competitive exams by CBSE. We welcome you, Trilok sir. Thank you for joining. It's an honor to have you. Our next key speaker, another senior education leader, Archana Srivastava ma'am. Archana ma'am is principal with the East Point School, Vasundhara Enclave, Delhi. Her biggest strength is empathy, compassion, care, and respect towards other individuals. She is a passionate administrator and a great cook, and a rare, which is a rare combination at times. She has an MA in economics and a B.Ed from Banaras Hindu University, along with a diploma in computer programming. She has more than 25 years of teaching and administrative experience. She has received the Best Teacher Award consecutively for 3 years. Also received the Best Result-Oriented Teacher Award and the Best Motivating Teacher Award for 2 years in a row. She's also received a Bolt Award, which is the Broad Outlook Learner Teacher Award at the national level. Brain Feed School Excellence Award for 3 years in a row. She has also received International School Award from British Council. Recently, she has started her own venture, Home to Home, wherein she provides home-cooked and hygienic food to the people who crave for outside food during the pandemic. We welcome you, Archana ma'am. Thank you for joining. It's an honor to have you. Our next key speaker, another senior education leader, Krishna Bangera ji. Krishna sir is principal with Podar International School, Mysore, Karnataka. He had his learning experience in the field of education for from the past 25 years. He started his career as a lecturer in a reputed college. After completing his master's in physics, he became the founder principal of 3 branches of a highly reputed international school chain, Podar International School, and showed his skill of school development. He has the rich experience of heading an international school in Sultanate of Oman for a couple of years. He was principal of a modern international school, Sultanate of Oman, from 2015-16 to 17. He also headed Bhavan's International School and had the opportunity to visit UAE to attend conferences and workshops of Bhavan's group of schools. His willingness to learn has made him visit the schools in the USA to study the learning ambience of international exposure. His visit to the NASA Visitor Center at Alabama, USA shows his eagerness to learn in the field of his expertise. He is a dedicated leader, who is committed to serve the fraternity of education. He has organized national conferences for school leaders, became the resource person for workshops for teachers in the state level. We welcome you, Krishna sir. Thank you for joining. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome, sir. Our next key speaker, another very senior and eminent education leader, Ayagiri Kausalya ma'am. Ayagiri ma'am is principal with Sri Satya Sai Vidya Vihar, Vizag, Andhra Pradesh. She has an MA, MPhil, B.Ed. As an educationist, she has been serving Sri Satya Sai Vidya Vihar for the last 36 years. She is also a diploma holder of Satya Sai Educare from Satya Sai Institute of Education, India. She has given presentations on music and vibration, in the depth of silence, positive thinking, and many more motivational topics at SSIE Mumbai. She's also the member with accreditation team of Satya Sai Schools India. She's also the member of CBSE Board of Inspection of Schools. We welcome you, Ayagiri ma'am. Thank you for joining. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome, ma'am. Our next speaker, another senior education leader, Annie Suzanne Serian ma'am. Annie ma'am is principal with St. Gregorius Senior Secondary School, Malakwaja, Kerala. She's a senior education leader with decades of experience. She has done MSc, B.Ed, SCT, PGDCA. She's also worked with Eminence Public School, Badalam, Kerala. She has been awarded and recognized for his contribution to the field of education many times. Welcome, Annie ma'am. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Welcome, ma'am. And our last key speaker, a very senior education edtech leader, Jaswinder Singh ji. Jaswinder sir is founder and CEO of Wordsworth ELT. He has an experience of 30 years in the field of education and technology, and has also served as a consultant to UNESCO in education. Wordsworth English Lab is designed for India and is a highly research initiative of the ACT UNIF Group. It is a trusted education company with 2 decades of service in technology, education and training. Its expertise in technology, multimedia and content development has been instrumental in presenting a world-class language lab solution for academia in India. In a short span of time, Wordsworth English Language Lab has managed considerable recognition across the country for its unique content and methodology. Over 3,000 installations in institutions across the country stand testimony of the quality in product, implementation, training, and continual service provided by ACT UNIF and its committed network of dealers. We welcome you, Jaswinder sir. Thank you for joining. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you, Rajulji.
Welcome, sir. And once again, big thanks to all the key participants for joining us today. With this, we come to the next part of the session, which is the opening remark part. I would now invite our key speakers one by one. For their quick 1-minute opening remark, I would first request Dr. Sujata Gade ma'am. Sujata ma'am, if we can have your quick 1-minute opening remark.
Thank you, Mr. Rahul. I think I'm audible. I'm Sujata Gade, and I've been working in the education field for past 25 years. And I've worked in many national and international schools. I'm currently associated with Aga Khan Education Service India. I'm working as a principal in Diamond Jubilee High School, Hyderabad. And I've been instrumental in devising several policies related to education, assessment, and child safety. And I've been working with a great potential people in the field of education. So we have been trying to make a difference in the field of education by providing quality education to underprivileged communities. So I hope you must have been aware of Aga Khan Education Service India, the services it is rendered across the world, and I'm glad to be associated. And I've been trying to, render my services in contributing in any possible way. And thank you for giving me this opportunity. So look forward to hear from all the participants and their wonderful sharings.
Thank you for your participation. We all are very excited with your presence. I would come back to you for your detailed perspective. I would now request Trilok sir, sir, if we can have your opening remark.
Rajulji, Trilok sir had another meeting. He had to leave. He left a message for you that he had a meeting with his management. So he was very sorry that you couldn't, attend it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So we'll invite him for the other sessions. Now I would request Archana Srivastava ma'am. Archana ma'am, if we can have your opening remark.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. It's really wonderful to be among such, educationists and educators. And it is really a wonderful morning because I'm really glad and looking forward to listening many new and innovative things from you people all. And just a brief introduction about me, as you already said, that I am basically into education line for the past 25 years. And I actually started my career with a pre-primary teacher. And, it is such a wonderful journey, right from the toddlers to the seniors and then coming to an administrative post. It has been a huge and an array of experience that I have. And with whatever little I have achieved in my life, I'm just trying to make and create a little difference for the society and for the people by imparting education that is deep rooted in Indian culture and values. So that is my ultimate aim, which we are trying in my school at present in East Point School, where I am working as a principal. So I'm just, we are trying along with all the educationists that we have in our school, we are trying to create that difference. And I hope that may God bless us all so that we can carry on this journey forward with many good intentions. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Big thanks, Archana ma'am.
Thank you.
We look forward to learn more from you during the session. Big thanks for your participation. I would now invite Krishna sir. Sir, if you can have your opening remark.
Good morning, everyone. 165 sessions with the educators and reaching up to more than, I think, lakhs of educators that you're going to meet. The idea of making the people to speak on national education policy and compile the content, compile the recommendations, and give a compiled report to the MHRD and also to the other boards of the education. This is a wonderful thought process that the India International Education Council has planned. First of all, I would like to congratulate the whole team for conceiving this idea. I think it's wonderful. You're contributing something to this field because we are in the entrance of NEP execution. And this is a very right thing that you're doing, and there cannot be an innovative idea than this to go ahead. My congratulations to you for this 166th session. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I would come back to you. Big thanks. We are really inspired with your motivating words. I would come back to you for a detailed perspective. I would now request Ayagri ma'am. Ma'am, if you can have your opening remark.
Yes, good morning, everybody. I truly appreciate the efforts of this council for having brought us all onto one platform on discussing the educational policies. It's very important for all of us to know the opinions from different parts of the country. And sharing these opinions and experiences truly would, put us all on one kind of path and one kind of uniformity in going forward. Like you said, yes, it is the beginning of NEP, and we do have to share our opinions in moving forward this great mission. I come from the Sri Satya Sai organization. The Sri Satya Sai organization has, it's a deemed university which gives education free of cost from KG to PG. And we have around 108 schools in India. the branches of this particular organization, and ours is one. And I have been here for the last 36 years serving this institution. And I truly look forward to the opinions and views of all the promoters of education, who are all holding this great noble cause of, educating young children, especially school education, because this is the foundation we all give. We make the torchbearers. Thank you.
Thank you. I agree, ma'am, for your participation. Big thanks. I would be coming back to you for a detailed perspective. Now, I would request any ma'am, if you can have your opening remark.
Sir, good morning, everybody. It's a great pleasure, prestige, and privilege for me to be here with you all in this platform. Thank you so much, sir, for giving me this opportunity. I would like to congratulate School Lalaji and also India International Council of Education. So that's for your efforts to decode national education policy. It's a wonderful effort. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Special congratulations from my school team, St. Gregorio Senior Secondary School, Mulakalacheganur. So it's in Kerala. Sir, it's a great opportunity for me to be here with you all. Today, I would like to share with you reforms in national education policy in the area of assessment. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Annie ma'am. And we are equally honored and excited with your presence. We will come back to you for a detailed perspective. Now, I would request Jaswinder sir, sir, if we can have your opening remark.
Yeah, thank you and good morning, everybody. Honored to be a part of this group of speakers, eminent speakers from different parts of the country. We've got people from almost north, south, east, west, except east. But okay, so I come from a field, from the field of education technology, EdTech, and we work with some 3,000 schools and 1 million students on a daily basis. So my focus on today is going to be on how do we use technology to achieve certain, goals or the kind of deliverables that have been put forward by NEP 2020. How do we ensure that we achieve those goals? That is one thing that I'm going to talk about using technology. The other thing is I'm going to put focus on languages, because we're a language company, and NEP 2020 has brought in a lot of changes, the way education should be delivered in the early foundation years and maybe in the preparatory years. What is going to happen? What could be the best option of going around? How are we going to manage all these things? So that is where I'm going to put my thoughts on, and I'm going to talk about languages. Thank you.
Thank you, Jaswinder sir, for your participation and sharing your wisdom, in these two important areas. We look forward to learn more from you. Big thanks once again to all the key speakers for sharing your opening remark. And with this, we come to the next part of the session, which is the main part. But before I invite our first speaker, I would like to share the learnings which we have had during our last 165 sessions. During our last 165 sessions, almost every participant shared that this is a wonderful document. And this document, if executed well, has a potential to place India at that coveted position of Vishwa Gyan Guru. But at the same time, same number of participants shared that this is very, very ambitious document and execution is going to be very, very challenging. Many believe that finance is going to be a key concern area. A lot of people who participated said that teachers training is going to be a concern area. Many educators said, yes, teachers training is a big concern area, but the bigger concern area would be lack of intent and motivation among teachers to get trained. A lot of people also shared their assessment that many good schools in urban areas already implementing many of the ideas mentioned in NEP. So the challenge would be for rural school, budget school. I believe Sujata ma'am has got some emergency. No problem, Sujata ma'am. We'll come back to you in the second or third part. So, in fact, a lot of other educators also said that this pandemic has exposed the poor distribution of digital infrastructure in our country. And that is going to be another big challenge. So, I would request all our key speakers that today, while sharing our perspective on national education policy, if you can also share some ideas, some best practice, that you are implementing in your school, so that we all can learn from each other, that session become more engaging and useful for all of us. So with this thought, I would now invite our first speaker for the main talk, Archana Srivastava ma'am. Archana ma'am.
Yes, sir. So see, when this new education policy 2020 was implemented, there were lot many, discussions, debates, and so many things that were happening. And the basic national education policy, what it talks about, the few things that, of course, I felt was really good if we could move ahead with such things. Like, for example, if we talk about that new education policy has certain pillars, and those pillars on which the policy is built is, first of all, that it wants to create and provide access to all. So SS is one of the pillars that we are talking about, that it is not confining itself to a particular segment or a fraction of people. It is trying to reach out to each and every individual nook and corner of the country. Okay, so that is one of the pillars which I really feel is very strong in this national education policy, which can actually provide the real sense of education that we talk about to all the students across globe. So that is one pillar. Then second is, when we talk about, it is talking about the quality education. Now here there is a little, what we can say, a little doubt or something, that when we talk about quality education, we really have to see that
Moderator, please unmute.
Moderator, unmute. So moderator is muted.
Yeah,
Okay, sir.
Archana, yeah, I'm sorry, I just forgot that. Archana, we have lost your connection.
hello,
Yeah,
yeah,
you're back.
sorry, there was some power connect. Okay, so when we are talking about, am I audible now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay. So because when we are talking about quality education, it is very important to see that what actually each educator has defined to be as a quality education that we talk about, because it really makes a great difference when we talk about imparting the education with quality as a factor. Okay, because I'll not talk about all the schools across the globe, but yes, there are certain schools where the quality of education that we impart is absolutely a mockery that we are delivering. So how and where and when to check that quality is a big challenge in the new education policy. It's a big challenge, because when we are talking about quality, we need to really see that every person involved in the education process is following that particular quality with the defined standards. So that is one of the biggest challenge that I feel that this new education policy has. And if you talk to me about its a solution, it's only, the honesty and the compassion that you can show towards imparting the quality education, that every educator, the onus definitely lies on the school heads and the principals to ensure that whatever the principles, whatever the policies that are made, they are implemented up to the mark. And at the same time, the next pillar on which the new education policy is based is the accountability mechanism. That is most important to be fixed, because we cannot just do away with our systems. We just cannot do away with our actions. Whatever we do in the process, we have to be accountable for what we are doing, because here we are not dealing with machines, we are not dealing with anything else. We are talking about the human beings, the children that we are going to create for future. So that is the next thing, that accountability is the next pillar that we must cater to. And then when we are talking about the new education policy, it is very, very important that we need to design such policy documents and create such policies in our school, in the micro systems. We need to develop a small system within our own system, wherein we are in a position to create individuals and human beings who are resilient, who are rational, who are compassionate and empathetic, and they are in a position to develop a creative imagination. If these four aspects, at least to begin with, if we take, then I think that to a large extent, we can go a long way in making the considerable difference in the education that we are seeking to, or what we are talking about. Because every school, I'm not saying it's my school who is only doing it or your school is doing it, every school in its best capability is trying to put their best foot forward to make a desirable change in their teaching learning process, so that the desired learning outcome that we always talk about is achieved. But whether, when we are talking about those desired learning outcome, is there any mechanism, is there any system which we can actually check and find out that what we are actually trying to give to the children is reaching out to them or not? I might be a very good individual, a very good orator, and a very good learned person, but my education will fail if it does not transcend down to the level of the children. So it's very important that we are making a real impact on those children whom we are trying to create. And for that, in our school, we have developed not only the committees and their SOPs and norms, but we have also checked and created, if you want, I will share with you all also later, that we have also created an accountability mechanism wherein each person in the school, whatever, whether that person is in a physical education department, in an infirmary, or whatever, wherever you are involved, up in academic or co-curricular, every person is fixed with an accountability, and that accountability mechanism is checked at each level, right from starting from the coordinators to the subject HODs to the headmistress, vice principal. And that report submission at the end of the month is really important. It might sound hectic, but that is the only way which I feel personally, maybe I'll get to learn something more from you people, that I feel that it is really crucial that if you fix your accountability, then of course you are in a position to create a considerable difference in the system and what we talk about, the new education policy. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, Archana ma'am, for sharing these important and valuable points. You began by highlighting the importance of making sure the quality learning outcome.
Yes.
And in your assessment, that is going to be a key challenge, while executing NEP. You also talked about the importance of setting up accountabilities.
Yes.
That is very important. We all agree with you, ma'am. You also talked about and called upon all the educators that we need to set up, micro level arrangements inside our institutions to empower individuals, empower our team, empower our, staff in different ways, if we want to execute this policy effectively. So big thanks, Archana ma'am, for sharing your wisdom and thoughts on national education policy and in education in general. So big thanks. I would come back to you with questions.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sure. Thank you.
And before I invite the next speaker, Krishna sir, I must recognize the presence of few very senior education leaders. Radhika RBG, she's the principal in Mysore. Susi Pintoji, she's the principal with St. Joseph Central School, Vijayanagar, Mysore. Mr. William Pushpraj, he's a principal with Shiksha Sekarni Central School, Mysore. Dr. A.R. Arvinda Srinivasan, principal Sri Adi Nagri Central School, Mysore. Ms. Namrata Sharma, principal Delhi Public School, Mysore. Selina Mary, principal in Mysore. Dr. P.T. Vincent, principal in Mysore. Ms. Rajeshwari Iyer, principal with Maharaja Public School, Mysore. Ms. Beena Jacob, principal Presentation Public School, Mysore. Elizabeth Thomas, principal St. Joseph Central School, Mysore. Elizabeth S. Kukreya Shinoyji, principal Hassan Public School, Hassan, Karnataka. Satya Sulochana S.N., principal Shri Natraj Public School, Mysore. Annie Helen Joseph, principal with Capitol Public School, Mysore. Father Sunil Menzies, principal St. Arnold Central School, Mysore. And Ms. Suma KG, principal East West International School, Mysore. I welcome you all. Big thanks for joining us today. And now I would request Krishna Bangiraji. Krishna sir, over to you for your detailed perspective.
Good morning to all fellow educators. So I hope I am audible.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. First of all, I thank the India International Education Council for giving an opportunity. I will start the points that I have thought of sharing with the fellow educators. As the Archana ma'am just mentioned, the pillars of national education policy: universal access, equity and inclusion, quality in education, and also there is affordability and accountability. These are the pillars of national education policy. By the same time, this national education policy has been put forward with many principles such as flexibility, no hard separation between science and humanities, multidisciplinary and holistic education, creative and critical thinking, regular formative assessment for learning, and participation of the community, use of the technology, etc. So these are some of the principles of the national education policy. Today, there is a greater responsibility for all of us, we the educators, when it comes to the implementation of national education policy. I just would like to take the example of my brother who is who has a formal education of only up to grade 4. And he was working in a nursing home as a compounder or a helper in a nursing home. And it so happened he established a good relationship with the doctor of that nursing home. And the doctor had 2 children of age 7 years or 5 years. I came to know later from the doctor itself that whenever there is a vaccination to be given to those children never allowed the doctor to give the vaccination, whereas my brother had to give that. My brother's education, as I said, formal education is only 4, but he developed a skill. That skill was better than the skill of a doctor. The children were not ready, and they say that when Papa gives injection, it pains, let the compounder give it. When I was working in a residential school, I come across a assistant cook whose formal education again was less than 6th standard, and we all used to play cricket together, and I have observed his wrist movement when he was batting was wonderful. And for any good batsman, the wrist movement was very, very crucial. I've asked him, have you gone for a cricket coaching? And this guy said no. See, I have taken this example just to say that if there is a proper education for these people, they would have been somewhere else. Look at the first sentence of the introduction of the national education policy that says that education is fundamental for achieving full human potential. So we as educators have got a greater responsibility when it comes to implementing this national education policy 2020. I'd like to speak with regard to the ancient Indian knowledge and national education policy. The people who developed this national education policy, they claim that rich heritage of Indian knowledge is the guiding light for the policy that they have created. The ancient Indian knowledge, the ancient education is not, the aim of that ancient education is not acquisition of knowledge, not just the acquisition of knowledge, not just preparing the individual for life in this world or life outside the school, but complete realization and liberation of life. I repeat, complete realization and liberation of life. Liberation of one's self. That means one understands his authentic self is so important. What I'm trying to say, liberation is finding moksha. It's not something to do with the spirituality, but these are the words that's been found in the national education policy itself, and that's so astonishing to me. We all work towards one individual, that is student. If a student do not understand his self, then our education system fails. We have to make him to understand what he is good for, and what he is capable of doing. Suppose we are successful, then we are successful in imparting the education. I would like to draw your attention to this word transformation. We all know the meaning of this. A marked change is nothing but transformation. Irreversible change is nothing but transformation. The best analogy for this is a caterpillar will transform into a butterfly. That's the transformation. My house wall color is purple. I would like to change it into white. I have changed it. I can paint and change it into white. But I don't like that white. Again, I would like to go back to purple. I can repaint it. That's the change. Transformation is not change. Transformation, once it is changed forever, ever, irreversible. As I said, butterfly, even if it wants to be a caterpillar, it cannot do that. So that's exactly the responsibility of all of us, the educators, when it comes to implementation of national education policy. The first transformation is transforming India into a global knowledge superpower. Now, the NEP 2020 aims at building an education system with Indian ethos, which is aligned with the principles that ma'am said or I have stated. And also, the NEP says transforming curricular and pedagogical structure. It says change. It is not the change that they would like to bring with regard to the curricular and pedagogical structure, but the transformation should happen. For example, in the secondary stage, multidisciplinary study or greater critical thinking, flexibility, and student choice of subject to be given. Or experiential learning should be introduced in the middle stage, or play, discovery, and activity-based and interactive classroom learning to be introduced in preparatory. That is nothing but the transforming curricular and pedagogical structure. We should be ready for that. See, I am speaking some of the points, the wow factor of national education policy. Look at that, transform the culture of assessment. When it comes to transform the culture of assessment, NEP very clearly says that it's not the examination which is very, very important. Even the board examination pattern also, they would like to make it in such a way that the children should not feel the burden of learning. Continuous tracking, artificial intelligence based software so that we can assess what the child is strong at, what he is changing into. And the next wow factor of NEP is shift from traditional learning to experiential learning. Say, and also the competency based education. We all know there is a child in our school who is wonderful at cricket, he is wonderful at basketball, or he is wonderful when it comes to some of the puzzles. But when it comes to scoring marks in the examination, he is not good. So now this competency-based education exactly focus on that. For example, there is a child who's a wonderful artist, then why do we give him a burden of biology? There is a wonderful singer, why do we give that child a burden of mathematics or physics? If that is his competency, why not the education system should give an importance only in that particular area? That's the competency-based education that we all should ready for that change or transformation, not only among the students, but also among the parents. Now, National Testing Agency is one place that the NEP gives a lot of importance. I would like to take the example of IITs. There are 23 IITs in India, maybe roughly around 9.5 to 10 lakh students take that examination. And if I say 80% of them are going for coaching, maybe 8 lakh plus students will pay money for an IIT coaching. But how many are getting the seat in IIT? Maybe around 10,000. That means so many lakhs have paid money, the coaching centers have made money, and what is the use for the rest of the people? I'm not against giving something additional input to the children. My point is, now this percentage is important to get into IIT, or the percentage of 10th standard is important to get into a college. That is why my child should do maths, my child should do science is the intention of the parent, but they fail to understand the competency of that particular child. Even when the teacher says that your child science is not fit, it is the humanities more good for your child. If a teacher identifies that strength, the parents are not in a mindset to accept that. Instead, they say that, no, ma'am, I would like to take an admission in 11th standard science to my child. That is why this should be, he should learn math, he should learn science. Now, the NEP says that National Testing Agency is introduced and they're working a lot aptitude test. This is something really is, fascinating me. You conduct a common aptitude test at any level so that the child will get an entry there. For example, when the teacher says that your child is good at sports, the child is good at art, only art you give, or your child is good at a vocational subject such as carpentry or pottery or gardening, give an importance only to that, the parents may not be in a position to accept, and the child is not that mature to accept it. Now, this NTA, when it comes and when it functions in such a way that even these children will be assessed in a proper way so that they will get an admission in the professional colleges. So that is what wow factor to me when it comes to the National Testing Agency. They should work, they will work to offer a high quality common aptitude test to eliminate the need for taking coaching for these examinations. That is the objective of bringing this NTA, and that's the transformation or transforming in the culture of assessment that the NEP would like to bring. Another important factor is the 4-year integrated B.Ed program will be made mandatory by the year 2030. That's really fascinating me. Now we do have 4 years integrated B.Ed, but the limited. Only the RIEs, Regional Institute of Education, give 4 years.
Krishna sir, we have lost your voice. We've lost the connection with you. Krishna sir, we have lost the connection. Yeah, I believe Krishna sir has faced some technical glitch, but he was sharing these wonderful points. Just would like to compile. He began by highlighting the importance of flexibility, no hard separation between curriculum, no curriculum activities mentioned in NEP. The changes which NEP is proposing in the assessment.
And it should be safe.
Join us back. Yes, sir. Please.
The next is the development of QAIF, School Quality Assessment and Accreditation Framework, by NCERT as well as the state authority. We are all familiar as far as the accreditation that the CBSE wanted to implement it once. Now the NEP is going to make this as mandatory. It's already there for the colleges, where the college is rated A+. Who does that? UGC has taken responsibility. Now similar thing is coming to the school. It's good. When there is a standard set, accordingly the scoring is given, then every school will work to see that the quality is maintained. This is a wow factor for me. The next one is setting up of PARAK, National Center for Performance Assessment, Review and Analysis of Knowledge for Holistic Development. See, the very objective of setting up of PARAK is to see that there is a standard is being set, and also this is going to conduct a state assessment survey, national assessment survey. We want this PARAK to work in such a way that the parameters of the survey to be shared with the school, so school knows that this is how the survey will be conducted. So what is the benefit to the country is you come to know where you stand in the ranks of the schools of the country. So, and it has got an objective guiding this, conducting the National Achievement Survey, guiding the State Achievement Survey, monitoring achievement of learning outcomes in the country. That's a wonderful thing to do it. See, we don't grow as an individual school, but we grow as a country. Friends, with this, I would end my presentation and I would leave it to others to just go ahead with the points, whatever they want to share. But I would like to conclude by saying that there is a greater responsibility with we, the educators, when it comes to execution and implementation of this national education policy. One framework will be given by the education board, respective education board, and also in coordination with the state or independently. But we need to have that paradigm shift. We need to understand the basic objective of those changes. With this, I conclude my presentation and thanks for the patient hearing.
Thank you, Krishna sir, for sharing these valuable points. You began by highlighting the importance of flexibility, no hard separation between curriculum, no curriculum, and activities, assessment, and the technology which are being proposed in NEP. You also talked about that NEP has, full potential to execute its first line to achieve full human potential. You also talked about where you found that NEP's roots lie in the ancient Indian education system and has taken many valuable inputs from there. You also explained why we need to transform our education system, not just to change some part of it. You also talked about how NEP has potential transforming India into a global superpower by transforming curricular pedagogical standards. You also talked about the NEP's focus on competency-based education, how it is going to create impact, and other initiatives which are mentioned in NEP, be it NTA, 4-year integrated B.Ed program, and Parak, and how these initiatives are going to create huge impact in Indian education system. So big thanks, Krishna sir, for explaining all these important points for us. I would come back to you with questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
And now I would request Ayagiri or Kausalya ma'am, ma'am, over to you. If we can have your details first.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Rahul. Good morning, everybody. Good morning once again. And, initially when the NEP was announced, all of us were very excited. And we were getting ready slowly to accept and understand the changes that are made. But then as all of us have gone through, the teaching fraternity have gone through a lot of changes. Right from the olden times, they say the basic educationists were the great sages and the seers. As Krishna sir was drawing a line between knowledge and wisdom, the very thin line that goes in between knowledge and wisdom. We have to impart both simultaneously. That is probably what we call value education. While educating children through the syllabus, we impart values. So this, thin line between wisdom and knowledge has to be very clearly imparted to the children. Then later, when we were thinking about how to execute, when it comes to execution of the NEP, then how are we going about? Are we really prepared? How prepared are we? And what is the training that the teachers are going to get? If you remember when we had this ECE system, the teachers were thoroughly trained. So many training courses the CBSE had conducted, and all the teachers had gone through that. And by the time they could settle into it, and then, in full-fledged manner go about, then things changed. Now, thanks to COVID, now everybody has fallen into the line of technological skills. Everybody, even an immature person with technology, also has learned how to take an online class. Now, this also we have adapted ourselves to. Now comes NEP. Now with NEP, how do we define education? How do we define an educator? So the education that we are imparting as educationists has to be now very thoroughly trained, given training for all schools. I'm so happy that there is a kind of a uniform policy that is brought about. But then it is always said the minds of men are nurtured in nurseries. I wish, everybody gives enough importance to primary education, school education, because basically, if we see, the higher education is always given more importance than school education. Teachers and school education, if they are given more importance, then the foundation will be pakka. This foundation is very, very important for all of us. Then, when the teachers get together to discuss the policies of NEP, and when all of us together try to, improvise the patterns and give suggestions also, maybe it will take another 2-3 years time for us to all get back into shape and to follow its policies. But then it's very important to accept and listen to so many versions of different principles talking here. And we also have to be prepared with the flexibility that we are talking about where children are concerned. How many of us have not faced children asking us questions like, Madam, if Rabindranath Tagore had thrown his books at the age of 14 and become a Nobel laureate, why can't we do it? Why should we go through exams? Why should we go through all these things? There are questions like that. And we all have to train different leaders in all our schools. Leadership is very important when especially NEP is concerned, because it's more decentralized now, and at different levels, if leaders are given freedom to follow the guidelines in in a good manner, while imparting it to the children, then definitely we can do well. There is a lot of hope, but then there is a lot of challenge also to overcome, and there is a lot that we have to learn and a lot more for us to give. So this is what I think, I look forward to when it comes to NEP, looking forward to a lot more learning. I thank you.
Thank you. I agree, ma'am. For sharing your assessment and your perspective on national education policy. We all agree with you, ma'am, when you said the NEP's focus on foundational years are highly laudable and they are going to create impact. In fact, after talking to so many educators across country, I strongly believe that one thing this NEP has already achieved, it has created that mass awareness about the importance of those early years. Now, even a common man is talking about just two things, like when they'll get vaccine, and second, the importance of these early years. So everyone has recognized the importance of those foundational years. And big thanks. And we also agree with you that we need to train our teachers. Lot of senior educators who have participated, they have shared that one of the biggest reason for the failure of CCE, that we failed to train our teachers. We did not train our teachers in a right way. And big thanks for sharing your wisdom. I would come back to you. I agree, ma'am, with questions. Thank you. And now I would request any Suzanne Cherian, ma'am, before I go to Sujata, ma'am. Any, ma'am, over to you.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, everybody. Today I would like to share with you my views about assessment reforms in national education policy. Just let me share my screen. Okay. So when I was a student, the concept of assessment, it is something to promote a student from one grade to the next higher level, or to find the best student in our class. So when I become the teacher, so during the initial years of my experience, I did assessment. So the purpose of assessment at that time, to know how much my students learned from the topic which I taught, and also to prepare them for examination. So during the course of my experience, I understood that the assessment is not for that purpose. And actually, it is for helping the students to learn how to learn. So that policy is emphasized in national education policy. So before starting with the national education policy, we know that India having a rich culture of education. Let's look through the culture of India. So actually our assessment pattern that started in Vedic period itself. We all know that during the Vedic period, there was a system. That system is Gurukula system. And in this Gurukula system, how the students are with the teachers, they studied from the mouth of the teachers, and the assessment method is oral recitation and informal observation. Then that changed in 5th BC. So there at that time, so the Mughal period also come at that time, different agencies, different sanghas, different collective groups for oral assessment. There is no external agency. Then later in 1835, there occurs a board, monumental declaration. There is a board for the examination. And the year of 1857, first matricular examination held. And so during the coming years, it's found that examinations are held, but what happened? Failure of large number of candidates in matric examination and assessment. The reason is that during the assessment, only essay type questions are used. That's the problem. So I hope everybody can see my slide. Is it clear for you? I hope
Yes,
everybody, yeah, okay. Then, so after that, so during the independence or after the independence, our country gave more emphasis for education. Different commissions developed for that. So actually, three main commissions. You all familiar with the commission, Radhakrishnan Commission, Muslier Commission, and Kothari Commission. All these commissions, so the examination pattern changed. The examination pattern changed for bringing quality and confidence for the system of education. Okay, during the year 1968 and 1986, national policy of education. So here there is a shift occurs. Actually, up to that time, evaluation is only for providing a certificate. So there's a shift from providing certificate or focusing on certificate to improvement in learning. So from that point onwards, we focuses different other options of the examination. That means, so de-emphasizing memorization, introduction of CCE, use of grade in place of marks, introduction of semester system, even though national education policy is now, so there are different systems we adopted, we tried. So there is gradual changes. So let's have a look through this change, our journey of students assessment in India. Gone a long way. From where? From oral testing, then it shifted to written testing, then it shifted to public examination, then internal and external assessment. After that, it shifted to continuous and comprehensive evaluation. Even if it is a shifting, the previous method also we are using along with that. And last, competency-based assessment. There are different attempts for shifting for this, but previous methods also we are using. Now, in new education policy 2020, so that emphasize on optimizing learning and development of all students. So there are mainly 5 focuses for this. There are mainly 5 focuses for the assessment in new education policy. I think it's familiar for all of you. First focus is on regular, formative, and competency-based assessment. So assessment not in one day. So during the entire year, the students get different chances for assessment. Then it helps the students to learn. And that assessment system, according to national education policy, that focus on assessment for learning. Then not only it's test the basic skills, it tests all the higher order skills, analysis, critical thinking, conceptual clarity, everything. So that is optimized learning for holistic development of the child. That is the focus of features of new policy. And so national education policy, for gaining these focuses or attaining this, so they try to transform the culture of assessment. Our culture of assessment, the teachers are assessing at the end of year, there is one board examination, or at the end of a period of course, there is a board examination and assessing the students and giving certificate and promoting the student. So here in this national education policy, there is a transformation. So that means from the beginning of childhood or beginning of the preparatory stage, there is a continuous tracking of learning outcome of each child. That means the assessment is not from higher stage. So there is a continuous tracking. So here we know that our board examination and competitive examination, that's not flexible, it's rigid and give more importance for I think entrance coachings, etc. But in this pattern, this transformation, board examination is made more flexible. That means it assesses all the essential skills of students. Then assessment focused on core concepts. Which are the core concepts? Higher order skills and foundational skills. Then also during the assessment, artificial intelligence based softwares are developed. So that help the students to so enable them to make optimal career choice according to his performance in his school years. Then there are different agencies already created. So then PARAC, you all familiar, the sir also already explained about PARAC. So PARAC, you know that it's a it is a performance assessment, revised analysis of knowledge for the holistic development. So that is PARAC. So that will bring synergy in board examination conducted by different board of examination. So we have to approach or that PARAC develop different national assessment systems. Then, so in this assessment pattern, there are different options for assessment. So there is chances for self-assessment and also for peer assessment, that all given importance. Then, so there is national testing agency. We know that now also national testing agency is there. They are testing and they are conducting entrance examination. But from this, there is a deviation. They will conduct a common aptitude test. So that is for higher quality. So that is for eliminate the need for coaching for this exam. You know, whenever the student is joining in class 8 or class 9, so along with the academic coaching also starting. So this give a lot of struggle or I think so that give more importance for rote memorization skills. So, but here there is a shifting. So that means there is no need for coaching centers. So NDA will conduct assessment. So the most important part of the assessment is the presentation of assessment in the form of a report card. So National Education Policy give special emphasis on report cards. So the main point, it should be 360 degree. It is meant by 360 degree. So it assesses the students. You know that we all know what is 360 degree. From all the corners, it assesses the student. It is multi-layered. Multi-layered means not only in a single stage, the assessment done by different groups, different calibers, different agents. And also it is multi-source. That means assessment done from different sources. So here you can see it. School-based assessment. Now already we having report card that developed from the new report card we are using, that's developed from the year 2000, I think 2016 onwards. And there are some reforms also this. But this report card is completely redesigned. This report card is going to completely redesigned by states. And for that, guidance we get from PARAC, NCERT and SCERT. So here you see here different layers can we see here. Here the layers, the first layer, it should be 360 degree. That means multi-dimensional. Then second thing, this report card include the assessment of cognitive. Cognitive means intellectual skill of the student. Then psychomotor skills developed by the training of the student, and also affective skills and the skills developed by the student in emotional areas. All these things assessed by this. And also there are different options for assessment. The student can assess himself, and also his peers also can assess him, and also the parents can assess him, and also the teachers. But now the main focus assessment is by teachers only. And this is shifting to another type. And actually this report card, we all know that it's a link from home to school. It's a link. So parents meeting we are conducting at that time, we can help or we can emphasize on the improvement of the students. So learn the students or help the students to know how to learn. So that for that purpose, these reports are used. And for this, we can use AI-based software. AI-based software we can develop. So that's going to develop. And this is a usual formal public examination. I'm not going through this slide. But this formal public examination is reforming. So you all are familiar with the formal public examination. And I want to explain just how it is going to reforming the public examination. So you know that the 9 to 12 is a segment of this policy. That's a giant leap from our 9, 10 plus 2 system. So this is a segment for this policy in class 9 to 12. Okay. So this time, board examination will be made easier. So that means now board examination is easier for the students who studied the concepts only or subjects only. But this board examination tests the core capacities of students. Then visible models are developed to explore annual, semester and modular exam. So there are 2 models for examination, objective and descriptive. Then there are different guidelines will be prepared by, we all know, National NCERT. So NCERT in consultation with SCERT, because different location having different cultures, assessment include that also. and there are different board of examination and also PARAC. Then teachers to be prepared. So 2022-23 academic section onwards, teachers to be prepared for the transformation of assessment. Already the preparation started. Okay. Then each board, there are different boards. Each board ensure equivalence of academic standards in learners' attainment. So we all know that assessment is not in higher class or board examination or that is semester wise, but actual true assessment means that start from grade 1 to 8. And there are different key stages for assessment. So that is grade 3, that is a stage for assessment. Then grade 5, then also grade 8. These are the different key stages of assessment. So here, what is assessing? So actually assessing achievement of critical learning outcome. That means what are the essential learning outcome? Before that, we fix the essential learning outcome. So whether the students gain that outcome or come to that outcome, that is testing. So that means mainly moving away from the rote learning. So nothing the students have to, nothing to be assessed from the rote memorization patterns. So then one more thing. So usually now the pattern we are using the result for school examination, result of school examination for different purposes. But up to 8, the result of school examination is used only for developmental purpose. It is a continuous monitoring. It is for the improvement of schooling system. So for that, the objectives are developed by the PARAC. I already told you PARAC is National Assessment Center. So that means performance, assessment, review, analysis of knowledge. That's all for the holistic development. That means for the holistic development of a child, we assess the performance and give review and analyze the knowledge. So that's the method of assessment here. And this is, there are one more agency, that is National Testing Agencies, and the next is implementation of this. So I think my time is over. So for the next session or sometimes I will share this. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening me. Let's all join together and hope for the best. We are all our education leaders. And actually now it's our responsibility to implement these reforms. Let's all join together. Thank you everybody. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you, Annie ma'am, for sharing these important assessments. You know, you began by sharing the journey of education policy transformation in our country, and then you explain in a detailed way the feature of different kind of assessments which are being proposed in this national education policy. You also shared the highlights of this NEP where it is suggesting ways to transform the culture of assessment, in our education setup. You also talked about and shared different ways of, and the kind of changes assessment would see. You explained 360 report card and how the different components it has, like self-assessment, peer assessment, parents and teachers' involvement in the assessment part is going to create the impact. You also talked about the importance of changes which is being proposed by NEP in that 9 to 12th grade examination setup. And then again, highlighted the importance of PARAC and NTA and how these are going to create impact. In the end, you called upon all the fellow educators that it is a joint responsibility and we need concerted and collaborative efforts to execute this policy successfully. So big thanks, Annie ma'am, for sharing these important points. I would come back to you with questions. I see that Trilok sir has joined us back. Welcome, Trilok sir. So I would now request Dr. Sujata Gade ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Trilok sir. Welcome, sir. Welcome back. So, Sujata Gade ma'am.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Rahul. Firstly, let me thank you once again for Indian International Education Council for giving such a wonderful platform to discuss about national education policy. And this kind of brainstorming is very much needed to explore the opportunities and the disadvantages and what kind of threats that we have and what kind of preparation that is needed. And such a wonderful discussions and eminent speakers in the education field. It has been a wonderful initiative by India International Education Council. Thank you once again. So from my side, I would like to present on technology use and integration in education in National Education Policy 2020. The 34 years of a journey from last education policy in 1986 to 2020 taught us many lessons. Emphasis on achieving uniformity across social groups was not sufficient to prepare the nation for competitive global employment, research needs, changing scenarios at economic fronts, and environmental changes. Rapid changes in scientific, technical fields created a need for skilled workforce, as unskilled workforce is replaced by machines, and many jobs currently that are available in contemporary scenario are going to get redundant. And exploring alternate resources to our needs, growing epidemics and pandemics increased the importance of subjects like biology, chemistry, climate science, and social science, etc. With the changing employment dynamics, research needs, it is becoming critical that students learn, more importantly, learn how to learn. Education must change its emphasis from lower cognitive skills to higher order skills with the 21st century skills in mind. Education must move towards less content, think critically, solve problems, to be creative and innovative, multidisciplinary, adopt, absorb new material and processes. The gap between current state of learning outcomes to required outcomes can be bridged only through major reforms in our education to bring quality education into the system. By 2040, India must have highest quality education system for all learners, regardless of social, economic backgrounds. So National Education Policy 2020 is based on the principle that education must develop both foundational capacities of numeracy and literacy and higher order cognitive capacities. India is a global leader in information and communication technology. The Digital India campaign is helping to transform the nation into a digitally empowered nation. While education plays a critical role in society, technology itself play an important role in the improvement of educational processes and outcomes. So these two, in fact, are complementary. Without the other, it becomes incomplete, insufficient. I would like to, in this content, I would like to give a glimpse of the National Educational Policy, how it is trying to implement technology, integrate technology in a system with a small presentation. Just give me a minute. Just give me a minute. So coming to the policy, the highlights when it comes to integrating technology into education, we need to look at what are the shortcomings or what are the areas that we weren't able to serve in the last national education policy that was formulated in 1986. The special emphasis on the removal of disparities and equalized educational opportunity, did it serve the purpose and did it help as the nation to deal with the growing demands at the global level? So this is where we need to look at the skills that we had moved from basic cognitive skills to higher order cognitive skills, beginning with the factual understanding and remembering, recalling the basic things. We are slowly shifting from the basic cognitive skills to higher order skills, keeping the 21st century learning in mind. keeping the 21st century learning and the skills in mind. If you look at them, basically the collaborative skills, critical thinking and problem solving, creativity, innovation, and differentiated learning approaches, and communications, information and media and literacy, and information and communication technology. And these are given a lot of emphasis in 21st century skills. And if you're looking at the current national education policy, how it is able to integrate technology so that we can achieve 21st century skills. If you're looking at the basic framework, how it works, you can look at the scope of this entire drive is to help in the areas that are mentioned. One is to improvise the teaching, learning, and assessment process, and helping teachers to get better at preparation, and also get to develop their professional skills by attending professional development, and enhancing educational access across the country, keeping the lot of issues in mind with the connectivity, with the access, with the different socio-economic issues, and different educational managements that are in India currently running across the country. We need to streamline the educational management and administration. The disparities between curriculum to curriculum can be understood, can be removed by making one policy, one nation. So removing language barriers, which is another issue with the vast country with different languages and cultures, and making the education available in the regional languages will help remove the language barriers. And it is inclusive education, which includes students with any kind of disadvantages. So, and how does this happen? How will this the entire process will be taken up? So the National Educational Technology Forum has been taken up the following tasks. So it has it plays a crucial role in advising both central and state governments on integrating technology in education, and how can the courses, how can this capacity building happen across the country. So both intellectual and institutional capacities, which includes providing the material, providing resources, making sure that the bandwidth is there to deliver the vision, and also importantly the training of the teachers, and also explore the opportunities for the new research and innovation. And there is to evaluate the technologies that are identified. We have another forum, National Research Foundation, which also works in close. After identifying the technologies, National Research Foundation will initiate the research efforts in the technology to take it forth and to make sure that it is available for the entire nation. So the core areas that National Research Foundation is looking into is artificial intelligence, more deeper research in artificial intelligence, and global challenges, addressing the global challenges, keeping the current epidemics in mind, and agricultural issues and climate changes that are affecting the human life. So these areas are going to be looked into when coming to the research. And another is that deploying the research, how can this research be taken forth? How can it be implemented? And what are the areas of research? The areas of research mainly revolves around artificial intelligence, machine language, and three-dimensional, multi-dimensional virtual realities, and what kind of technologies that they will be looking into, which can make a difference in terms of school administration, education, teacher training. There would be an extensive research on machine languages, artificial intelligence, smart boards, and computing devices, and a lot of educational softwares and hardwares. And most importantly, the evaluation of each of the technology before scaling up, which is very important. So that is also is going to be looked after by different agencies, and how the entire process will be taken up. After identifying the technologies, a National Educational Technology Forum will categorize based on the needs, and the Ministry of Education will recommend to National Research Foundation to take up further research and the feasibility of implementation, and what is the role of higher educational institutes in the process. The higher educational institutes will take